Hey, the Personal Development Unplugged podcast, the longer version, looking in to those negative emotions, those behaviors that we don't like, the feelings we don't like, and finding a way to change them. And it's a simple way. It really is so simple. Because in simplicity, there's genius. You don't push it away, you acknowledge it, and a couple of other things that I'll tell you about. You come with me on this dive. And it's not a deep dive, but it's a good dive. And we'll find better ways to use the negative emotions, the negative things that you do, and create a wonderful life. Have a listen after this. Hey, welcome to the Personal Development Unplugged podcast. So pleased you're here. Your time is valuable and precious. So what I would like to do is fill that time that you share with me with the most shiny golden nuggets to help improve your life, to get your goals, your wishes, your dreams to come to fruition quicker, bigger, better than you could ever imagine. Using your imagination, using hypnosis, using NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, all of that, using all things of the mind. No brain hacks, but real solid processes to deconstruct what people do to become great. And then find the processes that we can install that in ourselves to support you in your dreams and get what you really want in life. Anyway, who am I? I'm Paul Clough, and just going to have conversations with you in this podcast and get you thinking, but also share those processes because we're going to have so much fun. That's it. We're going to have fun for a change because we can sit down for a spell and have more fun than we can stand, creating the world we want to live in and be the person we want to be in that world. The only limitation is your imagination. And you got bucket loads, by the way, bucket loads. Have a listen. You really must.
This is Personal Development Unplugged with Paul Clough.
In simplicity, there is genius.
In simplicity, there is genius.
Hey, back with a longer podcast. And we're going to look in on something from the outside. We're going to look at, anxiety for a start. But anxiety, guilt, feeling down, sadness, bit of grief, anything you like, basically. Any negative emotion. And this is a sort of follow-up from a previous FMQ where I was having a little bit of a go about how simply interrupting anxiety, I didn't really think that, I know it doesn't let go of the anxiety. You just simply interrupt it. And I know in NLP we have pattern interrupts, but pattern interrupts are something that where if you have a strategy, you interrupt that strategy and put in a new part to that strategy to make the strategy work well. So if someone's a compulsive buyer, part of their strategy is missing, and that's normally, do I need this? Can I afford it? Just see and spend. So as you get to that point, you interrupt that pattern, that strategy, and you add in that thought, do I need this? Can I afford it? And decide. But anyway, we're going to go on that because in this theme, I guess, because there's a few quotations I brought up for this particular one. And the one I've used so many times, and I don't know where I got it from, and whoever gave it to me, I thank them from the heart of my bottom of my heart. You can't read the label from inside the jar. And that's so bloody obvious. And unfortunately, things that are obvious, they tend to be hiding in plain sight. So just thinking of that negative emotion, anxiety, fear, guilt, whatever. If you're in it, you're in the emotion, you're in that event right now, how can you expect to deal with it when you're in the bloody emotion? Can't be done, can it? Because if you're frightened, how do you deal with fear when you're frightened? How do you deal with anger when you're angry? Well, only with more fear and more anger. So you're in the bottle. You can't read the label. You can't see the ingredients, all that stuff. And when I was thinking about this, Albert Einstein came to mind. You know, I love Albert Einstein. In simplicity, there's genius. Get it right, Cluffy. But I looked up one and it came to me straight away. We can't solve the problem by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. Now, I want to repeat that, but put it in a different way. We can't solve emotions by using the same kind of emotion we used to create that emotion. Seems to make sense to me, because if you're in it, you're in the problem. You're not in the solution phase. You're not able to access the resources of the solutions. And the solution is there, but you're just head over heels in it, deep in it. And then there's a wonderful saying by Wayne Dyer, God rest his soul. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Isn't that awesome? If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Now you're going to say to me, Cluffy, maybe, what's this all to do with this interrupting your anxiety or interrupting your guilt, your anger, your fear, your grief, or whatever it is, whatever negative emotion you're suffering from. And let's say suffering because we do suffer from them, interrupting it. But it's from a different perspective, isn't it? We've got to get out of the place we're in so we can get to use our resources, get away from it. In fact, there are some NLP processes that when you do them with like an exercise, we used to do exercise in our trainings, we would have call it a safe place. I don't like the word safe place. I can't even say it. You see, I don't like it that much. It's a place of comfort where you can go and you can just be comfortable. But what that does is it dissociates from the issue. You move out of the emotion into that place over there, which is comfortable. It's just safe. You feel safe. You feel comfortable. And therefore, you can look from a different perspective. Oh, there you go. You see, when people come to me as a client, they have this issue and they're embroiled in the issue. They have it everywhere because that's what they're here to see me for, and they want to tell me about it. And the first question I ask, what do you want? And they tell me, I don't want this. And you see, I ask them, what do they want? And they tell me what they don't want. I don't want to be anxious. They don't tell me how they want to be, which is then my first question. Explain to me, how do you want to be? I need to know. First of all, I need to know how you do your issue. So we get the program, the strategy, but also, how do you want to be? Tell me about it. You see, when they tell me about it, what has to happen? I'll tell you what has to happen. They have to go there, don't they? If you tell me, if you think of an issue right now, and we've all got them, it doesn't have to be big. Maybe there's something you're not looking forward to. That's an issue. I'm not looking forward to this. I've got a little bit of fear, a little bit of anxiety. I got a little bit of lack of confidence. Anything. Don't know why I said a lack of confidence like that, but if I ask you, well, how would you like to be in that situation? You have to imagine how you want to be. And when you imagine how you want to be, you go there. You feel how you want to be. You see what you want to see. You hear what you want to hear. Because I've asked you to do that. Go there now. In fact, sometimes with my clients, I'll tell them, well, in fact, always with my clients, I ask them to fill out a little, I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is, but it says, what will it mean when I am? And they just fill out and think about what will it mean when they have the solution? How will it affect different areas of their life? Because it's not just that one area where they say, I'm frightened about this. That affects different areas of their life. And when you notice, when you find the solution to one area of your life, all the bloody rest change too. It's that thing about you will never know how far the ripples of change will go, because they don't. When I'm coaching, I ask people to go, well, how do you want to be? But in fact, don't think about how you want to be. Tell me how you've been the way you want to be in the past. And I call them counterexamples. Counterexamples to, if I'm frightened, tell me when you've been successful and confident. If someone has been fearful, tell me how you have been comfortable and successful in doing what you want to do. Go into the past and find them. I ask them to write them out. Why would you write them out, Cluffy? Because you just tell me about it. No, I can just think. And that's the whole point. When we just think, one comes in one ear, then it disappears when the next one comes in. Every memory just keeps like pushing each one apart. But if you write them down, here's the trick. You write them down. What do you have to do? First of all, you have to remember them. You have to see that memory. And then you have to describe it in words. And when you describe it in words, you have to keep looking up or looking into that memory to make sure you're describing it properly. And you've got an internal voice telling you what to write. And you read what you write. And your pen has muscle memory, or not your pen, your hand. And you read what you write and you check it with what you've been saying, and you check that with the memory. And you're doing it in so many different modalities. Your unconscious mind goes, oh, shit, we did it that way before and it was good. And you just have to think about it. How safe was I? Because most of, I'm not going to say all, because that's the biggest generalization, but most of negative emotions have with them that wonderful positive intention to keep you safe. It's no longer appropriate. And you see, everything I've just said is an example of, you can't read the label from inside the jar because I'm taking you outside the jar. How do you want to be? How have you been? You can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. We're going outside that, aren't we? We're finding resources that we want. And the thing about it, when you imagine what you want, you are accessing the things you've already got, because if you hadn't got them, you wouldn't know how to imagine them. And you're looking at that situation, looking at that emotion, those behaviors in a different way. And when you change the way you look at those things, they look different. Those things change. In fact, you can think of this. Everything that isn't your issue is part of the solution, isn't it? Or has the solution within it. That's why I say part of the solution, because it might not be a complete solution, but everything that when you're never or not doing your issue, your emotion, that negative emotion, when you're not doing that, then you are better. You're feeling comfortable. You're feeling safe. I don't think anybody ever notices, that's a better way of putting it, Cluffy, notices they feel safe. You always notice when you don't, when you feel fearful, you feel scared, you feel guilty, you feel any negative emotion has a form of, uncomfortableness. And all we're doing is looking in at the issue from a different perspective. And what's that different perspective? It's a different emotion, isn't it? It has to be a different emotion. Think about it. If everything you're not doing and you're accessing it right now, thinking about that and the problem, you're looking at that problem with a different set of resources, positive resources. Now, I know I've been saying a lot of words, and that's all very well and good, you might say, Cluffy. Great bloody words. You might even say, I know all about that. Well, that's balls, by the way. If you're actually saying that to me, I know all about this. Then if you knew about it and you did the things you know, that anxiety would be gone. You see, I know about all of this, but I don't always do it. I'm human just as everyone else in this world. We know a lot of stuff. And sometimes that gets in our way, or we don't do it. So I'm going to explain a little bit. So, but come with me in a different form. You see, Shoshin is beginner's mind. And with a beginner's mind, you are starting afresh, aren't you? To look at things afresh with clear eyes. Because there was when I looked at this and I Googled my little googly bits, I found this little quotation that went with the beginner's mind. Sometimes what you know gets in the way of what you need to learn. Damn, I thought, that's so bloody right. Sometimes what you know gets in the way of what you need to learn because we think we know it. We make those assumptions. So let's go back to the beginning. How do you do it, Cluffy, that you're going to say? You've been talking. So, you keep telling me how to, not to just think about it, not to just know it, but I have to do it. Because what is mastery? Mastery is doing what you know and knowing what you do. It's all about doing and knowing together. They come as a package. Because if you do things you don't know, you're fucked, basically. But if you do the things you know and know what you do, you become a master of that one particular element. Yes, there's more to learn. And when you learn it, there's more to do. And you know what to do because you just learn it. But here's the thing. Here's the real how. How do you interrupt? Because we're going to go there, interrupting the pattern of this negative emotion. How do we get to look at it from a different perspective? Well, I think the very first thing we have to do is stop trying to push the bugger away. Because if you push it away, your unconscious mind saying, look, I'm trying to do something for you. I'm trying to protect you. I'm trying to keep you safe in some bloody way. And I'm just going to do it even stronger. Which is why when you wake up in the morning and say, this is not going to happen, it bloody does. Comes back bigger and stronger. You go, whoa. So what do? When you're feeling this emotion, you notice it. Stop and acknowledge it. Because it's happening. Don't accept it. Because in my world, if you accept a negative emotion, you're accepting it as being acceptable. And it's no longer appropriate, so it's no longer acceptable, but we can acknowledge it because that's what's bloody happening right now. So just acknowledge it. Just notice where it is. Don't do anything with it because you know it's trying to do something for you. So just sit there for a moment. Just a second or two. Because if you don't, you've got to go and, carry on having it. So just sit with it for a moment. You're not pushing it away. Therefore, sometimes just sitting with that emotion, putting your awareness into it, will let it dissipate. It just disappears because you're now not pushing. But the thing is, just say thank you. What, Cluffy? Thank you for fear. Thank you for anger. No, just say thank you. Thank you for trying to do something for me. I know it's positive. You have a positive intention. You're talking to your best friend, your unconscious mind. Ooh, takes a bit of guts because you don't like it. People say it's a bad part of me. No, it isn't. It's a good part of you, but just wonderful intention. Just got the wrong emotion or the wrong behavior to go with it. And behavior is an emotion or negative belief, a limiting belief. Sometimes they generally all come together, don't they? But when you're there, just acknowledging it, just ask yourself a question. Is this emotion really protecting me? Now, you know it isn't. But ask that question. Really think about it. Is it really protecting me? Yes, it may be stopping me doing something. Yes, it may be trying to get you to prepare so you don't fall flat on your face, so you don't get embarrassed, so you don't get scared. But it's actually making you feel that way, isn't it? And when it makes you feel that way, it's in direct conflict with itself. So no, it's no longer protecting you. But the intention is wonderful. And just say to your unconscious mind, this is making me feel unsafe. This is making me feel uncomfortable. This is not getting the response you want. This is not getting the thing that you really want for me. Just explain it as you would a best friend. You wouldn't shout at a best friend. I hope you wouldn't anyway. You'd explain. I know you're trying to do something for me, but it's really not working. I thank you for all your efforts, all that energy. But what would happen if we put that energy in a different vehicle, as it were? Something. And here's the thing. You ask the next question. I hope you're writing all this stuff down. You ought to have that notebook beside you now and going, number one, number two. Number one is acknowledge. Be aware. Don't push away. Number two is asking that question. Is this really protecting me? No, it's in direct conflict. It's always in direct conflict, by the way. Number three. #C. 12C. Make myself laugh now. What would be a better emotion? To look in at this. Remember Wayne Dyer? Let's look at it in a different way. And if we look at it in a different way, it will appear different. And just think of what would be a better emotion. Look at what you want to achieve. And just think, what would be a better way to feel comfortable, to get your success, be safe? And maybe just go there. And I say, you can always go to that counterexample. When have I done this before and been successful and felt good? It doesn't have to be the exact same context. A similar context will do. And as you're doing the two, you're really comparing, aren't you? Comparing what it used to be and what you'd like it to be. And you ask that question then. Okay, So before I let it go, what can I learn from this? So there's a presupposition in there, isn't there? When I let it go, or before I let it go, what can I learn from this? And if those learnings were to be available to you right now and forever, you don't need that emotion, do you? Talking to your unconscious mind there, by the way. Get what you need to learn from this so you can access more appropriate, healthy, readily available new behaviors, new emotions, positive emotions, and a wonderful mindset, healthy, positive beliefs. So ask yourself, what might be a better emotion? I've thought about a better way, but there's a behavior there, but what would be a better emotion? And it's not normally the opposite. Maybe it's just, I'm going to be caring. Maybe I'm going to be observant. Maybe I'm going to be aware. Maybe I'm just going to be curious. Maybe there's two emotions. Well, if I was curious and aware, and maybe just a little calm. 3 now. What a wonderful recipe, because I'd really feel good. And what would that feel like if it was like that? And if you did feel like that, with those 3 different emotions as a lovely recipe, and with those learnings, how would that change your behavior? How would you act differently? How would you be different? And how, when you do all of that, if you were to go into that now, how safe would you feel? How comfortable would you feel? What a healthy outcome, wouldn't it? And learning all the way. And really, all we're doing is, yes, we've got this little strategy of the things we're going to think about, the things we're going to do, but all we're really doing is stopping and pausing, just for a few moments. It starts off with stop and breathe. Stop and breathe, just for a moment, and then acknowledge. And then asking those wonderful questions. I'll repeat them a little bit. Just think. What are you trying to do for me? What is that positive intention? Acknowledge it. Say thank you. Asking, is this emotion really protecting me? We know it isn't. But we want your unconscious mind to realize that it's no longer protecting you. And then ask, what would be a better way? If you could achieve what you want to achieve, my best friend inside, what would you want for me? But how can I do it and feel good, feel comfortable, feel safe, and be successful and enjoy the moment? What can I learn from this? What might be a better emotion? What might be a better positive belief? What might be a better behavior? Or behaviors, emotions, and beliefs. Put them all together. And it probably would take 2 or 3 minutes. 2 or 3 minutes. And sometimes, if you want to think about it a little longer with your puzzle book, if you're like me, you like options. And explore different options. And you might look at one and go, well, that doesn't quite make it. And you look at another one, well, that doesn't quite make it. But if I blend the two, that makes a difference. And I can learn now what doesn't work. I can learn what I think will work. I can imagine it. Your imagination is the only thing that you have got that no one else can control. Your imagination. You control it. You are responsible. So you can choose, having seen in your mind and made a choice, to become responsible. And you're learning all the time. And then we get grateful. Just sit there for another moment. Be grateful for that anxiety because it's got you to learn to find these wonderful ways. Because if you didn't get that signal, you might have just kind of crashed on and done something which is no longer appropriate, nothing good for you. Sorry, I'm stumbling my words a little bit. But it gives you the answer. It's just a signal in some ways, but it's outmoded. And you see, I made a meta view of this, and we're just looking in that lets you out to be who you want to be. Is it complicated? Fuck no. It's just simple. And we're not pushing things away. We're just acknowledging them. It can't be any more simple than that, and simple little questions. I hope that inspires you to welcome these bloody things, to welcome the things that we do that we're not happy with, because that's how you grow. That's how you grow and change. And the thing is, I made a little note. Why is this important? Important to you? I think it's important to you because I just want to explain what works. It just works. It's simple. It works. And to me, why was it important to me? It was like a kick up the arse and saying, oh, yes, Paul, you remember now? You know this stuff? Because I've been going through a little bit of stuff myself. And I had to go through this myself, which is, in some ways inspired me. Not only that thing I heard and saw about, but it inspired me to do this for you because I'm really doing it for me. Because it lets me go through it again, to know what I know, to make sure I do what I know, but to remind myself, because it's a constant thing to be that little bit better. And sometimes we trip up. Maybe we're not as good as I was yesterday, and I want to be better than yesterday, but today I'm not quite so good. And I've got to think about it. Sit quietly. What can I learn? And it's all about learning, isn't it? Learning and doing what you learn. So I hope you have learned something. And if you already know it, I hope you're going to take the next step and do what you know. Become that master of your emotions. Find new ones. Explore the things that would make your life rich, colourful in every way. Things that would give you joy, love, contentment, comfort, excitement maybe, in this adventure of what we have as a life. I really do hope that I've kept it simple, and in that simplicity, you take it for what it is. Simple steps that you can do. Hope you make some notes about it. I have, because it's the notes I made for talking with you. They're mine. I've got them. I will always go back to them now if I need them, because I feel inspired to do it. And if you get it and you try it, don't try, do. When you do it and you notice a difference, a couple of things. Will you please share it with other people? Share what you've learned. Because when you do just like I'm doing now, sharing with you, I'm getting to learn it even deeper. It goes deeper inside. It ratifies, yes, I do know it. Or, oh, that's a bit confusing. I didn't get that right. Maybe I've got to look a little deeper. Maybe I've got to learn a little bit more. I've not even quite got it yet. So it gets you to learn even deeper. It gets you to share it then with other people. They go, oh, that's bloody good. Where'd you get that from? Well, funny enough, you should ask. I got it from a guy called Cluffy, Paul Clough, Personal Development Unplugged. Great podcast, by the way. You ought to have a look at it. So that was like a sort of covert, overt request for you to share this podcast to people, so they get to get the difference. But let's make this podcast, affect as many people as we can in a good way. It makes me feel good. It makes you feel good. So please do share it. And if there's anything that wasn't as simple as you wanted, or you want another thing, as you know, I'm open to all suggestions, all critique, all feedback, because I have an email address called feedback@personaldevelopmentunplugged.com. Only comes to me. I'm the only bugger here, as you know. I'll answer it, and we'll create processes, episodes that will help you and help others, just as we've done in the past. So I thank you so much for your time. Time is the most valuable thing we have, because it disappears, doesn't it? Just like that. So let's use it wisely. Treat it as it's a valuable commodity. And enjoy it. Enjoy it. Well, have more joy and fun than you can stand. And notice what it's like to be, I wonder what it'd be like. I wonder what it would be like just to go about your day and suddenly feel happy for no reason. Time to fly, my friends. Until the next time. Ta-da.
Warning, you are now leaving the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. It's time to fly on your own. Be brave, my friend.
Personal Development Unplugged.